Okay, so we stopped at the part where we were creating tables that we store our measures. So we call these sales measures. Let's just create the same thing again, just another table to store the measure. So enter data, click on enter data. Then we call this, let's call this expense measures, where we want to store and everything related to expense measures. So just to keep our measures organized, you see the beauty of this just in a minute. So the next thing is that let's just create our first measure, just a simple measure. Let's quickly create our first measure. This measure is just going to sum our expenses, right? So we'll come to the table for expense measures. So there's this little three lines here. You click it, it's more options. You click it and go to new measure. New measure. So it just appears up here. So let's call this expenses. So we name, before you create a measure, you name the measure first. So this, we named it expenses. This will be the sum. We call up expense table. Okay, it's here already. Expenses, expense amount. This is our first measure. Just created expense amount. So let's create something for sales as well. So let's call this come to sales, new measure. Let's call this items sold. Items sold. That will be equal to, it's still a sum of, this time we are calling up sales table. So sales table. So once you just type a keyword, everything related to that table will come up. Sales table, we are looking for items sold. This revenue, okay. That's items sold right there. Items sold. So after creating this, we don't, our measures are still, another thing, and another thing, the purpose of actually creating these measure tables is to actually see all your measures at the first, is to be the first thing that appears on your fields. So to achieve that, we are just going to go to, let me say for sales measures, for instance, we will column one, hide column one. So we do the same thing for expense measures. Click on expense measures, drop it down here, then hide column one as well. So this is a very good and useful trick to just bring your measures up there. So what we just do, we just come to our fields, close it, and open it back up. So you can see that your expense and sales measures are now up here. So anything, once you start visualizing anything that's related to expense, you just come up here, look for it, and pick it in. So no need to be doing unnecessary searches that are not time efficient. So in as much as you want to build a, a good dashboard, you must also build it to be as time efficient as possible. To be as time efficient as possible. So that is, to be as time efficient as possible. So yes. So the next thing we are going to do, uh, Dorcas, please can you off your video so that, okay, let me take this down. So So let me just, okay. Now, the next thing we are going to do is to actually create more measures. More measures. Yeah, more measures. So we've just created some simple measures. So let's create a more simple measure. I think we need to create two more simple measures. Like we haven't created sales amount, we haven't created revenue. So let's just create it. So we come to our sales measures, everything related to sales. Then our little three lines here, new measure. Then we call this measure sales amount. Let's call it sales amount. So these are still simple measures. Sales amount. So that is equal to sum of our sales table. Let's call up sales table. Selling price. Selling price is our sales amount, like our volume, our value of sales. Okay, that is done. Then we create another measure, new measure, that we call, you can either use this place here or these more options here, so whichever. If you are, so far you are clicking that particular table that you want the measure to store, it automatically goes there. So let's call this revenues. Revenues. Revenues will be, okay, before we can either sum revenues directly, or we just use the ideal way, which is let's get cost price first, which is like the ideal thing to do. Cost price. Our cost price will be sum our sales, and we take cost price from there. Sales table, cost price. Close the bracket. Now we create the last, just another simple measure that we call revenue. Revenue. Revenue will be selling price, yeah, or sales amount minus our cost price. So we get our revenue. That is okay. So now, after creating all this, let's now move further to start creating measures that we to start creating time-based measures. For example, typically in any business, so we always know that the only thing that is not constant is time. Yeah, time changes, things changes with time. So we are going to create some time intelligence measures. So let's start with let me start with quarter, for instance. Let me say I want to do a quarterly report of my expenses. Yeah, a quarterly report of my expenses. So let's create a new measure for expenses in a quarter. That will be, we call it, let's call it QTD, that's quarter to date expenses. That will be equal to, there is a formula we call, a measure we call total quarter to date. We use total quarter to date. You can see, so let me explain this formula to you. You can see total quarter to date, total month to date, and total year to date. So what you can do, this same formula, you can use it to get your month to date numbers. You can still use the same formula to get your year to date number. So now the one we are interested in is quarter to date. quarter to date. So what expression do you want to evaluate? We want to evaluate our expenses, but we want to cut it quarter to date. So we call up that measure, expenses. Now say, okay, what date do you want to cut it by? So now we want to cut it by our calendar. You see, this is the essence of measures. The essence of, sorry, this is the essence of data modeling. So now I'm relating expenses table to my calendar table because they have a connection, right? So if they won't have a connection, I won't be able to relate them. So I'm going to cut this by dim calendar date. Then it's saying, what do I want to filter? Dim calendar date. Yes, that does it. I just need to put my quarter to date expenses, dim calendar date. So Power BI will just recognize it that, okay, this one, I want to calculate total quarter to date, finish. Very simple, right? So this particular formula just returns the last quarter. So except if we place it on a calendar table. So let's just quickly, instead of speaking too much, instead of speaking in theories, let's just put some couple of cards here so that we can see what we are doing. Let's put a card here. So let's call this one total expenses. So you can see this 34.09 million. So I can copy this card, Control C, and paste it. So move it here. Let's say quarter to date. You can see 14.3 million. Quite different. So another way to this quarter to date now, it picked only the last quarter it picked the last quarter on this particular data. That's what quarter to date is. But if I want to trend this quarter to date, I can put a bar chart, put this number, then it will show me everything for the whole year. So we'll still get there. So now this is this quarter to date. Apparently, in any analysis that we are doing, so someone will say, for example, if you want to do a quarter report, why don't we compare it to last quarter, for instance? Let's write the measure. So new measure. New measure. I call this last quarter to date, last QTD. That will be equal to calculate. So there is a formula that we call calculate. Calculate is used for filtering. Yeah, it's a filter formula. So we calculate our quarter to date expenses, that measure we just created, quarter to date expenses. Then this quarter to date expenses, we want to move it back by 1 month. There's a formula that we can use to move a measure back by any interval we want to move it by. Whether 1 month, 2 months, either 1 month, 2 months, 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So depending, it depends on what you want to achieve. So now I want to achieve 1 quarter backwards. So this QTD expenses. The formula is called date add. Let me just go to the next line. QTD expenses. Formula is called date add. Date add. So the formula is now asking me that what dates do I want to move this measure back with? So it's still my same date, dim calendar date. Dim calendar date. Yeah, dim calendar date. Then Yeah, dim calendar date. So it's now saying what interval do I want to move it? Oh, sorry. Before I put my dim calendar date, I have to include another measure inside. So a measure that will tell me that this is actually doing quarter to date and shifting it backwards. So I call this dates quarter to date. So this is it. Date quarter to date. Then what is my date? It's my calendar. Dim calendar date. Yeah. It's asking me, so what number of intervals are you moving this data backwards? Put -1. It's asking me, what is the interval? Is it day? Is it month? Is it quarter? Is it year? In this case, it's quarter. Bang. Oh, this actually takes my data and move it back 1/4. So that is what this does. Okay. So let's put this number on a card. Let's see. Let's copy this card. Okay, last quarter to date. So it gives me last quarter to date number. Let's assume, let's just be curious. Yeah, for example, let's bring our calendar table. Let's bring our quarter. I think we created something for quarter. So let's bring our quarter here. Yeah, you can see. And let's take our total expenses. Expense measure expenses. Let's just place it there. Can we see the values? Yeah. You can see quarter 1, 4.2 million, quarter 2, 6.4, quarter 3, 8.2, which is what we have here, and quarter 4, 14.8, which is what we have here. Right. Let me remove this table. So DAX is very powerful, very powerful. So just to show us what we are creating so that it won't look like rocket science. So another thing we are going to create is we are going to create another new measure. We are working with expenses now. We are trying to create all the measures we need to analyze this our expense data. So we are going to create quarter to date QTD, TD variance. So I know some of you will want to ask this question, that why do we need to create quarter to date last month? So why we need to create that is that so we can't get things like quarter to date variance if we don't create quarter to date last month. And this quarter to date last month and quarter to date last quarter and quarter to date this quarter. So what it does for you is that it helps you to be able to manipulate your data. So you can shift it any quarter you want. So the number keeps on changing as you're shifting it by quarter. So let's do quarter to date variance. Quarter to date variance will be, let's bring a square box to call, it will be this quarter, that's quarter to date expenses minus last quarter to date expenses. So you get your variance. But there is yet another powerful tool, another powerful formula I want to bring in at this point. It's called switch. So switch works like if statement. So in Excel, how if statement works, that's how switch statement works. So let's quickly create that, a new measure. So we want to create, what we want to use that for is to create a KPI that if this quarter, current quarter, is higher than previous quarter, give me green. Give me, for example, no, if it's higher, give me red. Because it's expenses. If expenses is higher, it means that you are going, it should be red. So if it's lower, give me green. That is just what we are going to create. Let's quickly do that. Let's call it quarter QTD KPI. Yeah. So we are comparing this quarter to last quarter. That okay. If it's red, give us, if our expense is going up, give us red. If it's going down, give us green. So for this 14.39 and 8.24, so we should be expecting red in this case. So we say quarter to date expense. Let's label it properly. Expense KPI. So we'll call this switch. So switch. What is our expression? If true, yeah. So we are going to switch if true. So we are going to enter all our conditions that is true. You know, for if statement, you have to enter, okay, if this one, you have to enter it, if this is equal to this, give me this. If it's equal, if you want to write it like a nested if, you have to write it multiple times. You have to write if multiple times. But in terms of switch, you just need to write it once and place the condition that if it's true, give me all this. If it's false, give me this. So you don't need to repeat switch multiple times. That is why switch statement is very powerful. So we say switch. If switch, so if is, I'm very used to if statement. Switch quarter to date variance, yeah, quarter to date variance greater than 0. Switch greater than 0, it should return green. So how will we include green? So just create these two inverted commas. There is how you can get all those animation and icons on Power BI inside the formula. You use windows and dots. So it brings up multiple icons that you can use. So let's search for the one that is suitable. For the one that is suitable. So we say switch if what? If it's greater than 0. That is greater than 0 means the budget is higher. You are going over budget. Yeah. Greater than 0. So it should give us, and it should give us red now. So I think I should use this cross mark. Yeah. Cross mark. So if variance, this one minus last one variance is greater than 0, it should give us red. So we are not doing well in terms of expenses. That is what this is telling us. So we put another condition again after the comma, right? The same QTD variance. QTD variance. If it's less, that is the opposite side. If it's less than 0, that means our total quarter to date expenses, if it's less than 0, it means it's lower than last quarter to date expenses. So we are doing better compared to last quarter in terms of expenses. That's what this means. So if it's less than 0, switch. So I'm so used to if. It's very difficult to let go. So Windows dot. Let's look for something green. Yeah, okay. We have something green here. So good means you are performing according to budget. But what if it's 0? So now say anything else, comma, anything else, it should show that, okay, we are flat. Windows dots to bring out these emojis. We can either use this for flat, or so let's just pick this. Okay, this is warning. No. So let's look for something that looks like a minus. Ha. So this, we can pick this for flat, flat. So that means the budget is flat against. But let me just move this to different lines so that it will be easy to read. Easy to read. Okay, this is it. So let me zoom it for people to see how the formula looks like. Zoom back in. I enter. So let's just display what we've just done. Let's bring a card. Let's show it in a card. Let's say QTD KPI. Let's bring it here. You can see it clearly marks us that we are not doing well compared to the previous month against budget. So let's say let's look at our table. Let's look at our table once more and see or let's just take our calendar dates and just go quarter by quarter. Let's use a slicer. See a slicer. So see a slicer. We are just trying to look at what we are doing. So we are not visualizing yet. See our dates. Let's say quarter. Let's bring quarter here. So we can see this. And let's just make this a drop down, not a list. Let's say quarter 4, for instance, we are in quarter 4 on this data. So it returns 14 and 8. So it's a red mark. Let's go to quarter 3. So 6 is last quarter. Present quarter is 8. It's still a red mark. Let's go to quarter 2. Let's go to quarter 2. So still a red mark. Quarter 1. You can see still red compared to 0. So for today, I think from what we have done is 6 o'clock already. So we can stop here today and continue with creating all the measures that we need. Once we finish creating all the measures, then we'll start our visualization. We still have so many measures to go. By the time we finish creating all these measures, I think you should have gained enough stamina to actually create these measures on your own. Even today, I'm also going to share the resources. I'm going to share some resources, underlying the data we are using for this particular webinar, for us to just try and start working on it. Yeah, start working with the data and start getting your own results out of it. So just what we would do is that I'll put my email on the chat box. For those people in FCMB, I'm going to send it to them via email. But for people outside FCMB, you probably have to drop your email so that I will share the file with you. And again, you have to also download a Power BI desktop to be on your own computer. So anywhere you need, just go to the video. The videos that I'm going to put on YouTube, can go to those videos and just watch it and use it as guide. So it's not all about listening in this webinar. It's also about practicing. So I have 3 charts here. Let me quickly look at it. Okay. Yeah, you can access the recording on YouTube. I will share the link. Yeah, I'll share the link with you. Yeah. So, okay, I can see some emails dropping already. Okay. So I'll just pick those emails, share the data set with you so you can start working. After the training, you will have your own dashboard as well. So if we have, if there is any pattern we don't understand, and we can ask questions. So I'll pick all the questions and try and answer them to the best I can. So tomorrow is also going to be exciting. So we are going to write our, just finish these DAX that we've started. Then also we are going to start, we will design screens that we use for all our visualizations. So it's also going to be exciting. Even more, the more the days goes by, the more it gets exciting. I'm just trying to get all your emails. So get all your emails. So on Friday, on Friday, I just wish we try our best to cover as much as we can till Friday. So on Friday, we are going to be answering a whole lot of questions, and any challenge, if you're an existing user of Power BI, any challenge you have, you can talk about it. We can talk about it and see how we can solve it together. What I'm going to share is all we've used so far, though I won't share this Power BI file now because it's still work in progress. So I want you to actually start building yours. Yeah, just start building yours. All these things you have to practice to just start building yours. So after the end of the class, we are going to share the Power BI file with everyone. Okay. I think I have all your emails now. Oh, and from now, after this webinar, I'll be dropping content on YouTube and LinkedIn. So you can also connect with me on LinkedIn, and so just connect with me on LinkedIn, Augustine Omako, so on LinkedIn, and you also see some resources. Right, over time I'll be sharing a whole lot of resources on LinkedIn as well, LinkedIn and YouTube. So I'll provide you all that before the end of the webinar. Okay. Thank you very much for attending. So it's been a nice session, and I hope you got one or two things. Okay. Thank you, and see you tomorrow. Okay, I will share the link on YouTube. So let me type in my YouTube channel on the on let me type my YouTube channel here so that you can just go there and watch. It's called Reskill It. Reskill It. So I've sent the YouTube channel. I'm going to upload this to the YouTube channel so you can just go there and watch. Okay. Okay, thank you very much, and have a good night rest. See you tomorrow. So the meeting link is still the same thing. We are still going to be using the same link tomorrow.